Friends, do you read books about trading? Personally, I am sure that you can't learn anything immediately just because of a desire. Quality education is required, and as is known, a serious approach to the matter requires familiarity with serious literature. I have long been a successful practitioner, yet there is still room in my life for learning something new. In other words, I am constantly reading. Trading can definitely be learned by practicing on the real exchange. However, there is a list of books that are also important for everyone to read who intends to seriously master the art of speculation and investment. That's exactly what we will discuss in today's video. I have created a selection of the most worthwhile literature for you, which at one time had a very strong influence on me, and it helped me on my path to becoming a successful stock trader. I will give you brief reviews of each of these books, and this episode will also be full of useful information as we will be trading using a rather effective trading strategy and will try to increase the initial $10 to a significantly impressive amount. I'm sure it will be interesting and informative, so make yourself comfortable. And we begin. So friends, let's first figure out which trading strategy I will be using today. The first and most important tool in today's combination is the fractal 2 indicator with a period of 2. Number 2 is the momentum indicator with a period of 10. All settings are standard, please do not change anything. The combination is perfectly suited for 1-minute trading. All attention on the chart, I will explain what we are doing. Fractals serve as a method for us to demonstrate levels. We draw a line from them and get support zones, resistance zones. It's all quite simple. There will be countless such lines on the chart as the indicator constantly updates. Now, for clarity, I will draw more lines for you. And then we will see how they can be used to our advantage. In short, we will be trading breakouts and bounces from fractal levels. It's all very simple. Here's the first example. Take a look. The price broke the chart upwards and followed with a rise. Here, it's the same, only in the direction of a decline. And this happens all the time. The advantage of fractals is that they work both in flat markets and during trending movements. We will use different situations for trading, and the momentum indicator will help us with this. It will show us the main direction of the chart and the strength of the current trend. Now for clarity, I will demonstrate now the areas of its application. Look, we highlight two adjacent zones, green and red. Take note. At the moment of transition, the price slows down a bit and starts to fall after the peak of the green candle. I think the essence is clear to you. Now we can move on to our practical part on a new chart. Here, for now, I don't see a situation for entry. Let's go. This is excellent. The first entry point on the chart is the Australian dollar to the Japanese yen. Here the trade is long. Now I will show you the logic of my analysis. I will immediately say that this is my 12th attempt at acceleration. So don't think that acceleration happens as quickly as possible. And just look, the fractal we need is here. We trade the bounce upwards. It's all simple. And also by momentum, you see, it's green. It just crossed. This all confirms my analysis. We are waiting for the outcome of the trade. To start, I would like to tell you that without books in general, you won't get far in trading. Friends, the most valuable thing in these books is the author's thoughts, vision, advice, life hacks. That is, books on trading and investments are written by true professionals. And by reading these books, you have the opportunity to learn how these people think and how exactly they achieve their goals. This is truly a unique chance and an extremely important experience that is simply indispensable. In books, you can glean not only ideas for trades, but also find a way to look at the chart more correctly, to approach the analysis of your stock trading more broadly. Excellent. The first trade is in profit. I think it's worth looking for new entry opportunities on another chart. A short-term reversal is possible here. Let's go. Here is another great opportunity to enter the market on the Australian dollar to Canadian dollar chart. Here, of course, I'm going long. Look, here's the fractal we will rely on. The price broke above it, which means the price will rise. The momentum on this chart is also green, which further confirms my analysis is simple. Let's continue today's topic. And the first thing I'd like to start with is this book. Technical Analysis, a complete course by Schwager, is a very thick volume with a sea of useful information. It was with this book that I began my acquaintance with stock market analysis and trading. I also recommend it to you, although some things in this book are definitely outdated. The author speaks from the last century, but you will definitely find the basics and a correct understanding of chart patterns there. In other words, This book will teach you to see support and resistance lines, trends, consolidations, and how to draw all of this. Therefore, it is an absolute must-have for every beginner trader who wants to understand all of this. Well, splendid. The second trade I executed easily closes in profit. We continue trading further on a new currency pair. Let's go. Here's another excellent opportunity to enter. I will also open a long position here. Watch. I will explain everything to make it as clear as possible. Here we are basing our actions on a fractal from the recent past. Here it is, my friends. It serves as a zone for us. Now it acts as support. And below, there is the most current confirming signal. Also from a fractal. The momentum is green, the price is moving upwards. Everything is great. Let's see what comes of this, but for now, let's return to the books. I remember how I finished reading Schwager, and I had many general questions like, how is the market structured? Who participates in it? How do exchanges function in general? Why can I make trades over the internet? And what is news analysis? Why do I even need all these reports? And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. In other words, Schwager gave me knowledge, but in a jumbled format in my head. And organizing all of it was helped by the Trader's Little Encyclopedia by Eric Nyman. Take notes everywhere little by little, but the most important thing is learning. So be sure to read it. Another trade in profit. Wonderful. Moving on to the next chart. Here, returning to the same quote, after a short period of time, the price corrected itself. And now you can enter a long position again without any fears or problems. Let me show you the analysis of the current trade again. The fractal tells us what to expect. Growth and momentum. Everything is still in the green zone. That's it. We wait for the expiration to end and continue. Judgment of books. As you know, I prefer short-term trading and the trouble with books. The issue is that most of it is written specifically about long-term analysis. So I just remember how long I searched for something specialized and eventually found some ground there. Larry Williams's Long-Term Secrets to Short-Term Trading, write it down too. This book should absolutely blow your mind. It has everything from the art of correctly reading market signals to the analysis of various money management concepts, which is also very, 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 very important. Probably this book influenced me the most, and I definitely recommend it to you. In the meantime, we close the deal with another profit. Profit on the balance. This, of course, cannot help but please. A correction might start here now, so we move on to the next opportunities. As they say, friends, new quote, new opportunity. We also enter long on the Australian dollar to Canadian dollar chart. I will now show you the essence of the entry. Watch closely. The fractal is broken upwards, and not just one, but two at once, and this is already a significant reason. To expect growth, the moment is also in the green zone. This is confirmed by another book that greatly influenced my development, Trading for a Living by Elder. Of course, trading is not a game, and the author makes this clear to us quite the opposite. He talks about the three pillars of success in the market: psychology, trading system, and money management. The main idea of the book is that in trading, absolutely everything is important. Remove even one element, and all your efforts and speculations will turn to dust. And it really is so, guys. I recommend this book for forming the right perception and setting your actions. The author, like no one else, puts everything in its place and teaches how to perceive trading correctly as a craft. Simply magnificent. Another trade is in profit for me. Excellent. I think we are already halfway there. And for now, I see the point in staying on this same chart. Let's increase the investment size. There is potential for another entry. So friends, I have already given you a good basis from which to start if you are just learning. But is it worth stopping only at the initial stage, right? Never. To develop in trading, you will need to constantly enhance your own erudition, delve into new niches, and increase your awareness and exposure. This is an integral part of our profession, our work. When the basis is already in your mind, it's time to move on to serious literature, which we will discuss next. First, I will re-enter the market. I see a good point here to open a short position. Look how the price is pulling back down. The fractal is perfectly broken and we enter short, as I say. Let's immediately start discussing serious books with you. First, I'll mention the most boring, but necessary. The most boring, but necessary. It's William Sharpe's Investments. Friends, this is not just a book, it's a university textbook written by a Nobel Prize laureate in economics. It will be boring, but it's true, you need to read it. The book details most types of securities. It covers the theory, the practice of financial markets functioning, and examines investment management methods, including portfolio theory. A considerable amount is devoted to the methodology of asset valuation, including stocks and bonds. It sounds complicated, I understand, but you need it, just trust me. If you really want to understand what real stock trading is and how all the processes are organized here, maybe. In reality, it might not be very useful in practice, but at least you will understand economic news and interpret it correctly. Friends, you could say, phew, that was close. Well, we walked right on the edge and still took our profit. I changed the chart and continue today's acceleration. Let's go. Now let's trade the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. I love this pair, and right now I'm using it for a short. What do we have here? Look. Not entirely clear signals, but I still went in. Here's the fractal I was guided by. The price crossed it. Is there movement? Excellent. I can be confident in my investment. Another great book, friends, is Secrets of Economic Indicators by Baumol. This book is also written in complex language, but for us traders, it's a real treasure. Please make a note of it as well. This book discusses various macroeconomic indicators and how they affect prices. For fundamental analysis, it's simply indispensable. This information can also be found in other books, in other works, so to speak. For example, in the Small Encyclopedia of a Trader. However, everything here is elevated now, here to the absolute. Therefore, it's worth reading at least to distinguish GDP from wars, and to understand why a Federal Reserve speech is extremely important. For the currency market, I am not stopping my winning streak, already the 7th trade in a row. That's wonderful. Let's continue trading on other pairs and continue today's discussion about books on their... So friends, a good entry position seems to me on the Canadian dollar to Japanese yen chart, and I am opening a long here. I see that the price has already broken through the fractals, so I won't explain, I'll just return to the topic of books. What else can you read? Another powerful book is Intermarket Analysis by John Murphy. The book is dedicated to the principles of interaction between financial markets, meaning it discusses the interconnections between stocks, bonds, and commodity assets. In fact, all of this is very serious. And this book is for serious traders who strive to see not just the general features, but the entire financial system. I highly recommend it because this literature will definitely help you enhance your skills in macro analysis. In general, the financial market consists of many elements, and they are all truly interconnected with each other. It is precisely about these nuances of interaction, mutual influence, that is written in this book. A clear advantage. Also for me, there was the fact that there are a lot of charts. That is, everything is visual, everything is clear. But this book is not quite simple. Another profitable trade. I see an opportunity to re-enter in a minute. Let's wait and see what comes of it. What else about books? There is also Irrational Exuberance by Schiller. Definitely worth reading as well. It's worth it. As is known, in general, people tend towards strange actions, towards mistakes, including on the stock exchange. And this literature teaches us to see precisely such moments, to evaluate various graphical patterns from the perspective of crowd behavior. Understand? Thanks to this, one can correctly perceive the decision to enter the market. That is, the book allows a person to become an outside observer who evaluates others and does not succumb to the common instinct. Very important for us. Real trading is generally very treacherous, full of traps. Therefore, it's definitely worth reading. So here we will still enter the market. The price is clearly rising. Therefore, we will wait for further price growth. What else about books? Let's talk about the classics. Perception. Reminiscences of a stock operator. Livermore's work is a very old read from the early 20th century. so it's not worth diving into it right away. However, it is useful and interesting. Look, it's interesting because it describes the fate of a trader who couldn't imagine his life without stock speculations. The book talks about crowd psychology, market demand fluctuations, and controlling emotions. And all of this is vividly depicted in the roaring 20s of the last century, when the market knew only how to grow. It just kept growing and nothing else. Overall, very atmospheric and instructive. Therefore, I am sure that any self-respecting trader should read it. What about our deal? 4, 3, 2, 1. Everything is coming together in the best way. I think we'll trade here again in a minute. Let's wait for that moment. Another worthy book I remembered is called Liars. Poker by Lewis. It's a story about investment banks in the late 80s, observing the market's rise. The author vividly describes the dizzying journey of his protagonist. The book might be useful for those who need to learn from it. And as if you can learn how those very large banks look and how everything about them, how it all went. Naturally, it's not a textbook. That is to say, this book was written for something entirely different, but I still recommend reading it. At the very least, it's a captivating story. Let's see what we have with the quotes. Does the market want to rise? It seems that I will open on the new minute and still enter even on a red candle. Yes, I'm in the market, expecting a significant upward price movement here. Let me show you why exactly. Here is the zone of 2 fractals that the price broke through. That's why we are expecting growth. Friends, by the way, I got carried away talking to you about books and completely forgot to increase the investment size. But it's okay. An extra trade will reduce the risk at the end of our trading session. By the way, let me remind you that I started with just $10. By the way, boosting the deposit is not always necessary. You should go all in when the amount is already substantial. You can split it into several smaller amounts and continue boosting with multiple attempts. This way you diversify your risks, which is essentially what I did now, whether intentionally or not, and it's not a bad option. If you are very nervous at the end or for some reason are not confident in specifics of your calculations, so to speak, however, here I am confident the chart confirms it. Yes, excellent. Everything is more than successful. I already have more than $1,700 in my balance. Now we face the coveted final step. I think I will also risk a small amount, as I have already earned most of the required sum. In general, friends, it's not worth taking big risks. In general, okay, what should be said about books in general? Friends, definitely read them, and as often as possible, but don't place too much hope on them. Hopes. They won't make you a more experienced speculator, but they will definitely help on the path to becoming one. In general, books are not a magic elixir. They are just nourishment after a workout. Perhaps you will glean something from many of them, but other things you can only acquire through practice. Either way, okay, it's always better to read than not to read. So I'm ready for the finish. Deals, the last final deals for today. No explanation is needed here. A classic situation, trading upwards with the trend. Of course, I don't really like what's happening on the screen right now. How fortunate that I didn't risk everything I have on my balance. Yes, friends, this happens. And sometimes this is how deposit accelerations end. No one says that every acceleration reaches the finish line. In trading, absolutely anything is possible. Well, of course, it's especially frustrating when this happens at the last step. For now, I'm watching the price and thinking about plan B. Overall, I still have $1,000 on my balance, even a bit more. If needed, I can simply re-enter and finish today's acceleration. The main thing is not to panic and to know what you're doing. So there are only a few seconds left until the end of the trade. Well, no, I'm unlikely to make a profit here, so I'll be re-entering. Now I'll go all in with the balance and we'll be shorting. Look, we can forget about the previous trade. Yes, it failed, but it's no big deal. It happens. Such reversals and turns at the end of a trading session are the most unpleasant things that can happen in trading. However, you can navigate out of this. The main thing is to avoid rash decisions and keep yourself in control for now as well. I'm not pleased with the price standing still, so I'm still in the risk zone. We need a drop of at least a couple of points to get our profit and finish already. Finally, for today's session, at least graphically, the price is unlikely to go up after such a candle. A big red one. Yes, friends, in general, be prepared for the market to be like this. Difficult to predict. This is simply unavoidable, no matter how much you wish it weren't, but you need to know how to work. Well, come on, just a little bit left, just a little bit. Yes, nerves are on edge. But this is not the first time for me, actually, so we'll get through it. Yes, seriously, I'll return. Okay, it's not a big deal. This is not the absolute worst outcome. You just need to take a breath now, pause, and then continue your trading session. The main thing is not to rush under any circumstances. You can enter upwards if the price remains at the same level. All right, let's wait for a minute and see what happens next. Friends, no book will teach you this. A beginner in my place would have already rushed all in some direction, being very nervous. However, I know how to stop in time. And for a trader, this is very important. It's a skill of professionalism. Exactly. Nothing else. It's important to turn off your emotions, slow down your own hands, and not allow mistakes to happen. At one time, I thought these were trivial matters, but with experience, I realized that the success of the entire trading session depends on this. So, okay, let's finish off this trading session. I think it will definitely work out now, going long. A minute. A minute separates me from success. All right, let's get back to the books. So, we were having a nice chat about them until this force majeure began. One more piece of advice for you before we finish. Start from the simple to the complex. Friends, if you are a beginner, don't try to tackle the most complex aspects, especially if you don't have an economic education. Start with the books I recommended to you at the very, very beginning. So make sure to read them and then simply move on to more complex ones, but only do this when you feel comfortable. Don't rush, just like in trading. This is the foundation. It's essential. The rest is optional. And of course, don't forget that theory is best reinforced through practice. Trade, and trade again. Formulate hypotheses. Conduct backtesting. Study various trading strategies. Test them, and everything will be great for you. I believe in you. I wish you only the best. New ideas, friends, you will find in books, but they will be completely useless. Until, as I say, you personally test them thoroughly. Here is the desired victory. I caught the trend I needed, and the session turned out to be a bit nerve-wracking towards the end, but productive. Wonderful. Friends, I think it's time to summarize. Let's move on. What friends? I was quite, let's say, satisfied with the results of today's trading session. It was slightly nerve-wracking at the end. I almost started to get nervous. I won't hide it, but that's normal for trading. The main thing is to have as few such situations as possible. Alas, of course, but what literature definitely won't teach you is how to keep your composure. Therefore, definitely read books about trading from the ratings, but don't put them at the forefront. The most important things in trading are practice and self-control in using today's trading strategy. I think, does anyone have any questions? A stable working tool for making money. Take it into account. Friends, I hope this helps you earn a large amount of money. Before saying goodbye, I have to ask you for a small favor, friends. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. This is really important to me. I also count on you to leave your comment, write what you liked and what you would like to see in future episodes. I will try to create even more valuable and interesting content for you. Well, now it's time to say goodbye. I wish you all success. In trading, may you have more profit. And of course, may there be kindness and peace above your head. See you soon on my channel. Goodbye, everyone.